The cell wall is the outermost layer of the cell. It surrounds the plasma membrane. It is a flexible but rigid layer that surrounds some types of cells. It provides structural support and protection. Cell walls are found in plants, algae, bacteria, fungi, and some archaea. One of the cell wall's major function is to prevent too much water from entering the cell. Also, it helps with turgor pressure. This is the pressure of cell contents against the cell wall. The material that makes up the cell differs depending on the species.
Today we're going to talk about the cell wall structure. We'll start by talking about plasmodesmata. Does anyone have any idea what that is? Yes.
Is it how cells communicate?
You're on the right track, but it's actually a thread of cytoplasm that connects the adjacent plant cells.
Why do cells need to communicate?
The cells need to communicate in order to maintain homeostasis. The next thing we're going to talk about is different layers of the cell wall. Does anyone know what the first layer is? Yes.
Is it the middle lamella?
Yes, that's right. Do you know what that's composed of? Yes.
Is it glucose?
No, it's actually not. It's actually made up of proteins and peptic acids. It is also the layer that makes up the outer section of the cell wall.
Go.
Does anyone know what the next layer is? Yes.
Is it the primary wall?
Yes, that's correct. And what is it composed of? Yes.
Is it made up of cellulose?
Well, actually, it's a skeleton made up of cellulose microfibrils embedded in a gel-like matrix. Who knows what the last layer is called? Yes.
Is it the secondary layer?
Yes, you're right. And does anyone know anything else about the secondary wall?
Isn't it made up of many layers and provides strength to the cell wall?
You're right, and it's composed of cellulose, hemicellulose, and lichen.
Cell walls of fungi are usually made up of chitin and other polysaccharides. True fungi do not have cellulose in their cell wall. Their cell wall is made up of three main components: chitin, glucans, and proteins. Bacterial cell wall is composed of peptidoglycan, which is disaccharides and amino acids. It gives the bacteria support and protection. The bacterial cell wall is usually the main target for antibiotics. Scientist Hans Christian Gram came up with an experiment to test the resistance of bacteria to antibiotics. In his test, the bacteria that turned a violet color were gram-positive, and the ones that do not turn a violet color are gram-negative. Gram-positive cells have a thicker layer of peptidoglycan in their cell wall, and the gram-negative cells have a thinner layer of peptidoglycan in their cell wall. Gram-negative bacteria were more resistant to antibiotics compared to gram-positive bacteria. In an experiment conducted, students removed the cell wall from a yeast cell. They did this by using an enzyme, and while leaving the cell membranes intact. They then viewed the cells under a microscope and added water to a cell with a cell wall and one without a cell wall. The yeast cell with a cell wall is unaffected, while the cell without a cell wall explodes. This happens because the cell wall blocks out the water, but the cell without a cell wall explodes because the cell membranes are semi-permeable, so water rushes in. This is due to osmosis, the movement of water from high concentrations to lower concentrations. The students learned that the cell wall is necessary for homeostasis in yeast cells.